I'm going to talk loud because we're not sure that this is working. So if you're quiet and I'm loud, it might work. Right? Okay.
Can everyone hear?
So we've had some technical difficulties about getting the photos on the screen, so who knows what you're going to see.
We're ready.
Imagine with me what it would be like to have knowledge of the impact your ancestors had on the town you live in. My family is fortunate to have just that. My sister Char Loomis Taylor and myself, Joe Loomis Kingot, will give you a glimpse into this wonderfully fun and dedicated family that we call ours. Our family history in Roseman began 107 years ago. My sister Mel Loomis Hensley would love to be here today, but she lives out of town and could not be here with us. And we have a brother, Tommy, that couldn't be here tonight, but he now lives in heaven. Our family, both on the Loomis side, which is our dad's side, and the Hodges side, which is our mom's side, has a very long, rich history in the town of Roseman. We hope that through the information that we will share, you will see how our family loves this town and has been invested in it for many years. Our great-grandmother, Luella McNamee, was born in 1884. We called her Grandma Mac, and so did many others as well. She and her husband Winfield moved from Nebraska to California in 1908 and then moved into Roseman in 1918. Their first house was a two-storied house at 60th West and Avenue A. School for their two children was their first consideration. Their only neighbor, the Leo Huntington family, had two children. The Huntington children drove a horse and buggy to Rogers School each morning, and they offered to take the McNamee children with them. There were herds of wild antelope and wild horses running in the valley, and Luella felt that the wild stallions might be dangerous. She decided to do something about it. She made the long, tedious trip to Los Angeles and spoke to the county superintendent to present her problem. The following Monday morning, the first school bus picked up the children in the valley. This was really something big for the valley. Mrs. Leo Huntington drove the first school bus, and Luella McNamee served on the school board in 1919. Mr. Huntington had built a hotel in Roseman. The hotel and adjoining store, the depot, and the post office across the street were the few buildings that the town of Roseman could boast of in 1922. The McNamees managed the store and post office for 4 years. Grandma Mac operated the switchboard at the hotel, and then they took up alfalfa ranching. The McNamees had 3 children, Harold, Marie, and George. Harold only lived about 3 years. Luella played the organ for church and played for dances. The McNamees opened the first trailer park in Roseman in 1936 and operated it for 5 years. She was also a midwife for several years. Luella kept herself busy as usual. She opened a gift shop at Diamond and Roseman Boulevard. She also managed the apartments behind the gift shop. She had many handmade crafts, included tatting, tapestry, crochet, and knitting. Maybe tell them about some of the things we have of hers.
Yeah, I have one of Grandma's quilts. I keep it up at our cabin in Tehachapi, and I just throw it over an old rocking chair. And then I also have a black square
granny's
crocheted, yeah, like a granny's quilt that everybody had. Afghan
yeah.
had back in the day, and I love that. So.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. She attended Wayside Chapel and even turned the first shovel of dirt at the groundbreaking for the new sanctuary, and there's a picture of that. Luella's 85th birthday was celebrated with a party at Wayside Chapel surrounded by her family. And these are most of her grandkids and great-grandkids on her 85th birthday. There's been many more added since. Char's laughing because I'm not in the photo.
She was probably in what we would call timeout.
I was in trouble, probably. We can't remember, but it would have been my MO.
I'm 100% sure.
The Wayside Chapel plays an integral part in our family's history and life still today. Ruth, Charles, and Roy, who are my aunts and uncles, helped their father and grandfather mix the adobe mortar which was hauled from the Roseman Dry Lake bed in horse-drawn wagons. This is a picture of the first Wayside Chapel that had its beginnings in 1933, and that building is still standing at the corner of Locust and Diamond Street. And that picture has a date on it. Can anybody read it? 36? Oh, it was there from 36 to 60 is what it looks like, yeah. The Wayside, let's see. And then also, my parents, Bob and Sue, were married in this building here. And then all 4 of their kids, me and my 2 sisters and brother, were married in the 2nd Wayside Chapel, and all of my 3 kids were married in the 3rd Wayside Chapel, which is now on Fellside Avenue. Now back to the McNamee children. The McNamee children graduated from AV High. Following graduation, George took over the bus system, and his mother, Luella, drove her car to pick up children in the furthest outlying areas. After the Burton brothers purchased the Tropico mine, George and his father both went to work at the mine. George became purchasing agent, a position he held until he retired, and his father, Winfield, was a sampler for 19 years. Doreen Burton came to visit her uncles, the Burton brothers. Doreen and George became great friends, and they were eventually married. George and Doreen had 2 sons, George Jr. and Phil. And this happens to be a picture of my dad and George Sr. and Phil. We don't have George Jr. in this picture, but that was taken in 1984. And that's a picture of them. Both have now passed. George, all 3 of them have passed actually now. George Sr. lived out near the Tropico gold mine. He helped to organize the Kiwanis Club and was a trustee for Roseman Schools for 11 years and a trustee for Antelope Valley High School and AV Junior College for 12 years. He also helped organize the Boy Scouts in Roseman. George McNamee and his wife Doreen helped Glenn and Doreen Settle promote the tours and organize the museum at Tropico Mine. He also owned the Tropico Powder Company, and we have some items from the gold mine.
We have a blasting. We have some of their tape. Actually, at Mom's house, we have one of the big, huge scales, unmovable.
Yeah, I think we have a blasting cap can, and we have the actual blasting thing, and some assay jars and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
and that's in the video.
It is, yeah. Their daughter, Marie McNamee, became Marie Loomis when she married Thomas Loomis in 1925, and that is our grandfather, my dad's dad. They had 4 children, and this is a picture of that's my grandpa there. And that actually happens to be my brother with him when my brother was a baby, so that picture was taken in 1957.
That's gotta be at the cabin, too.
That is up at our cabin, yeah.
A little pond.
Okay, and they had 4 children, and there's a picture of them coming up. Ruth, Charles, Roy, and Robert, which we call Bob, who is our dad. Charles died in an accident on Sierra Highway as a teenager, but here's a really cute picture of my dad and his brother Roy. Aww.
Innocent.
Not at all. Thomas Loomis was we'll call my grandpa Thomas because we have a brother named Tommy too, so that simplifies things. Thomas Loomis was very involved in the community. He delivered the first load of custom ore to the Tropico gold mine in 1924, and that's a picture of him there. He owned a trucking company, and so deliveries is what he did. His trucking company made deliveries around the area of the Roseman area. And here's a picture of him in front of one of his trucks at the truck company. And on the back of that photo, my mom wrote that that's on Sierra Highway somewhere. I have no idea where that is at. We still have the handwritten ledger that he used for his trucking business. He also owned and operated Tommy's Garage on the corner of Highway 6 and Muroc Boulevard, and that's a picture of the original Tommy's Garage. And tell them where that is.
Now it's currently right before the railroad tracks across from Fast Trip. Correct.
Okay. Yeah, there was another gas station there that they recently tore down, and that's where that was located. The business license was applied for in 1923. Tommy's Garage moved to Roseman Boulevard just west of Diamond Street. And in this photo here, you can see it was a snowy day. And if you look back behind that truck there, you can see the sign that says Tommy's Garage. So on the left is Tommy's Garage. In front of that, there's a house, which is where the tire store is now. And on the right, you can see the elementary school in the background there. So that's what that one's all about. Our parents owned many parcels in this area on this corner here. They owned a lot where E.J. Knowles Key Shop was and where Expert Automotive is now. They owned the lots to the west of R&J where Jim Russell International Racing School was. And then it became the feed store, and now it's an auto repair shop.
Yeah, auto repair.
I think. They also owned the vacant lots across from Expert Auto. And Bob, or my dad's sister Ruth, and her husband Danny Ferris lived in the house on the corner of Desert Street and Roseman Boulevard. Our grandpa Loomis, Thomas, organized and began the Roseman Volunteer Fire Department. This article that I'm going to talk about that picture really quick. So that's also in the snow. The windmill is something that you see in several of the photos, so that gives us a point of reference. But that house is sitting on the corner of Diamond Street and Roseman Boulevard, right where R&J Auto Parts was, or now is the tire store. And that was where that house was sitting. And the Loomises lived in that house. Not us, but past generations lived in that house. Okay, our grandpa, Thomas Loomis, began and organized the Roseman Volunteer Fire Department. This article you're going to see here was taken from the Valley Press, dated 1959. And here's what it says. Thomas Loomis, who originated fire protection for Roseman in 1938, was honored at a community banquet Sunday in the Roseman Community Building. Jack Chalcraft, president of the Roseman Fire Department, presented Loomis with a gold badge in recognition for his many years of service. And here's two of the badges that he had. Thomas Loomis was recognized the need for some type of fire protection for the town, so he built a hose cart which he managed alone at first. In 1942, a group of volunteer firemen was organized and a county truck was added. And this is probably about what that truck looked like back in the day. That's an old Kern County fire truck. In 1954, the group reorganized, changing its name from Roseman Volunteer Fire Department to Roseman Fire Department. Equipment now included 2 county trucks and a resuscitator. Membership in the Volunteer Fire Department totals approximately 18 men, with a crew of county firemen in addition. The dinner in honor of Loomis was presented by the Roseman firemen. Attending, in addition to many community leaders, was Richard Dodson, Kern County Fire Department District Chief, and Thomas Ditchinson, a battalion chief from Tehachapi. Roy Loomis, was his son, served as master of ceremonies. A comic fashion show was presented by a group of Mojave women. Thomas also donated the property where the first fire station was built on Desert Street, and this is what that fire station eventually became to be. The building is still standing, and I believe it's now Search and Rescue.
Search and Rescue,
I think,
for
Kern County
Sheriff's
Search and Rescue.
Yeah.
Now, this is just an interesting letter that we came across, sent to our grandfather, Thomas Loomis, and it's received from the Pacific Telephone and Telegraph Company, and it's dated May 23rd, 1945. And here's what it says. Dear Mr. Loomis, I am pleased to announce that arrangements have been made to provide daily 24-hour telephone service for residents of Roseman beginning June 1st, 1945. On and after this date, calls may be placed at all hours of the day and night. This increase in the hours of service reflects our continuing efforts to render to our customers an improved telephone service. We are hopeful that this additional service will be a real benefit to you personally and to the community as a whole. So we assume that our grandfather was communicating with the telephone company asking for this additional telephone service. Okay, Thomas's son Roy served on the school board in Roseman Schools, owned and operated a welding shop in Roseman, and also Roy's Mobile. And in this photo here, it's an old photo looking east down Roseman Boulevard towards Sayre Highway. You can see the windmill. That's our reference point. Right before the windmill, you might be able to see, or it says Roy's Mobile, or after that, I can't quite see it. And it says, you'll see Tommy's Garage, and then you can see Roy's Mobile next to that. And you can see all the old pickup trucks as well. It's kind of cool.
One thing I have to say about Roy too is my husband Tom told me, which I didn't know he was a welder and all that kind of thing, but that he did a line all the way from Lancaster through Roseman out to Edwards by himself.
A line of what?
A line welding. It was a gas line, so it was welding all that way, and that's just a huge contract.
Yeah.
And all by himself. So he was a great welder.
And we still have receipts from Roy's Mobile that we keep. Roy was married to Amelia, and they had 3 daughters, Kathy, Betty, and Cindy. And this is a picture of their family. So that's our cousins that we grew up with here. Amelia was known for her longtime employment at the U.S. Postal Service, where she worked the service counter in Mojave. And after retirement, Amelia gave her time to deliver Meals on Wheels. And then Thomas's youngest son, Bob, who is our father, his name was Robert, but everyone called him Bob, was born in Bakersfield in 1933, and that was the closest hospital at the time. He graduated from AV High School and then joined the Army and was stationed in Germany. And he's looking pretty cute in that uniform there.
He does.
He loved to hunt and is seen here with his brother Roy and another old Rosemanite, Al Polly. We are blessed to have property on the south side of the Tehachapi Mountains, which is a great place to hunt and to go enjoy nature and relax. This is a picture of an older version of our cabin out there. Our mom, Sue Hodges Loomis, moved to Roseman in 1952 when she was 12 years old. And here's a picture of her playing the drums for the school band inside the first original Wayside Chapel building. And I know it's going to be hard to see her, but she's the tallest one in the back on the right with the drumsticks in her hand.
That's on Desert Street.
Diamond.
Diamond Street, yeah, Diamond Street.
That's where they got married. Okay. And now I want to share with you the story about how our mom and dad met, because it's kind of cute. This is a picture of our mom and dad at their wedding in 1956, April Fool's Day.
Yeah,
they got married on April Fool's Day, of course. They met in 1955 in a small restaurant when coffee was 10 cents and a burger was 35 cents. Our mom was a waitress there and our dad was fresh out of the Army, and for that 10-cent cup of coffee, he always left our mom a 25-cent tip. It was her mom, Ruth Hodges, who fixed them up on their first date. She really liked that guy, Bob, and thought that her daughter would like him too. Prior to this first date, at the age of 15, Sue had run away with her then boyfriend to get married, but his car broke down on the way. Tommy's Garage, being the only auto repair shop in Roseman, owned by Bob's dad, was where the car landed for repairs. Bob was the mechanic, and he bet Sue $10 that she would never marry that guy. He always said that she never paid him the $10. In 1956, they were married at the first Wayside Chapel location. And then along came us four kids, Tommy, Joe, Shar, and Mel. That is us. Bob loved his town of Roseman and was involved in many aspects of small town life. He worked for his father at the garage and eventually took over the business, and it became R&J Auto Parts in 1971. This is the, well, you can explain that before the addition.
Yeah, that's just before the addition, which is currently now the tire store, but it still had the bay doors because he did auto repair and he still did machine shop work and things like that.
And R&J was named after my mom and dad, Robert and Janice, which nobody called them that. They were called Bob and Sue. So, but that was the name of the building, of the business. It was no longer a mechanic shop, but now became auto parts and machine shop. R&J expanded and doubled in size, and here's a picture of that building after it was doubled. Oh, wait, there's a cute picture of my mom and dad.
That's really cute.
Working behind the counter at R&J, so young. And then the next picture should be a picture of R&J once they expanded it. So they took out
They took out the bay doors and then did the front to be.
So the entrance was no longer on Rosen Boulevard, it was on Diamond Street.
Right, and that was a big deal for an addition when you're just a small business with four children.
And this business was our family business for 82 years, which I think still holds the record in Roseman for the longest family-owned business. R&J was sold to CarQuest Auto Parts in 2006 and then eventually to the tire store. Us kids spent many an afternoon after school doing our homework to the smell of machine oil and stale coffee, but we did get to eat the sugar cubes, so that was fun.
And then occasionally we had a coin for the little candy.
Oh yeah, the little turn the knob candy.
Occasionally get Boston baked beans.
Boston baked beans. We also helped with inventory, which wasn't too bad because we got to stay up very late to do that after the shop closed. For a short time, our dad also had auto parts store and the motor pool at Edwards Air Force Base, one in Quartz Hill, one in Lancaster. Here's a picture of him in, that's a picture of my dad in his uniform at R&J. He wore that, I think he maybe wore it to bed. It's all we ever saw him in.
That's all he ever wore.
Yeah. And then the next picture should be of them and some of their employees there. My brother's in that photo as well, and one of his employees, my mom and dad, and a foreign exchange student that we had. He also owned and operated a tow truck company for a few years, and in the evenings after working all day at R&J, he also welded stobs for Great Lakes Carbon, and he hired George Hornbrook, which is also a longtime Roseman resident, to help him in welding those stobs. Our parents owned many parcels in the area. I think I mentioned that before, and just were very generous with other businesses, renting them out to them and things like that. And his sister and her husband, Danny Ferris, actually owned the house on the corner. This picture of my mom and dad here is just one of our favorites. My mom was involved in anything that my dad was involved in. She helped with many events at the VFW and Chamber of Commerce. They were both Cub Scout den leaders. She was also involved in the VFW Ladies Auxiliary, and here's a really cool photo of her modeling at one of the auxiliaries fashion shows. So
And is that after all 4 children?
that is 1923. I mean, she was 23. We were all born by
4
then.
children.
So yeah, so
Amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. She also hosted many people in our home and was also very involved in serving in the ministry at Wayside Chapel over the years. Our dad's Boy Scout troop placed the cross on top of the R Mountain in Roseman in 1968. You can show that photo. My dad made the cross from large steel pipes that he welded together and towed it up the mountain, and that was a project that the Boy Scouts took on in that day. And I wish we could identify the people in that photo, but
Yeah, many people have climbed up to that cross. We've climbed up to the cross. Emily did that with her first date with her husband now, was they painted the cross. That was their first date.
That's
so
cool.
It's a big meaning to everybody.
yeah. Our dad ran and won the honor of being Roseman's first honorary mayor in 1967. And here's a little stub from a raffle they were having to vote for Honest Bob for the job. And he was also instrumental in advocating for and seeing that Roseman would get its first bank. And we believe it was Bakersfield National Bank.
Yeah, we used to get maybe a quarter allowance in, maybe 50 cents, and we used to have to put half in
Savings.
and then go ride our bicycles down the store and buy candy with the other half.
And I believe that bank was located at the south end of Diamond Street.
It is, yeah.
And the building still stands, but it was a really small bank. Let's see. He was also honored to be front and center on the ribbon cutting for the opening of the ceremony. And then because he was honorary mayor, he was presented with this key to, well, we say the city, but we're not a city, the key to the town of Roseman from the Roseman Women's Club, and that's dated 1967. He was super involved in the VFW, serving in many capacities. I think we have a photo here of it at an event that they had at the VFW. Something for families, for kids. That's the back of my dad there.
Yeah.
Showing. He became the district president, drove to Bishop often for district meetings. He marched in parades and planned many of these events. Him and my mom planned many of these events. Our dad and mom worked with the VFW and other community organizations in planning and implementing the Roseman Fair. And this was a Roseman Fair tie that people wore at the time.
The fair was awesome. It had maybe 6 or 7 rides, woohoo, and it had maybe 6 or 7 booths, and everything was centered around the rodeo. So
yeah, we had to sell pepper bellies. I remember that.
Yeah, that was the VFW.
Yeah.
Was pepper bellies.
And this picture here of him riding in a car is him running for the Chamber of Commerce president, and he's alongside Lila Berg running for mayor.
She's running to be the 2nd mayor and succeeded.
She did. And Glendon Johnson is riding along as well. Not sure who the driver
But
is.
the worst part is they ran against our Uncle Bill. But we had to support Lila.
That's true. So that fence there is the fence that was around R&J, and the building on the back left was E.J. Noel's Key Shop.
Yeah.
There. You can see those in the background. Let's see. On our mother's side of the family, they were also involved in community life somewhat. My mom's mother, Ruth Hodges, or Grandma Hodges, as many people called her, ran Grandma's daycare on Center Street for many years, caring for kids in the community while their parents worked. And here's just a picture of me and my grandma, so people can see what she looks like.
That was at my wedding.
Char's wedding. Yeah, it was.
My parents' backyard.
Let's see. For a few years, Grandma Hodges and our grandfather Marion Hodges owned Wayside Cafe, and this is an old photo of them before they owned Wayside Cafe, but they're sitting in the Wayside Cafe. This was taken in 1953, and they're sitting with another couple from Roseman called Rick and Flo Hendricks.
So you never get to see your grandparents as young, and you never get to see them as oogly googly, love each other. And there you go.
That's why we're laughing.
Yeah, that's why we're laughing.
Okay, for several years, our mom's sister Nettie and her husband Bill Vaughn owned Vaughn's Home Market in the building that was Johnson's Market. Bill and Nettie also owned Mr. V's Variety Store across from the market. Bill Vaughn became the senior pastor of Wayside Chapel Church in 1978, and he served in that role for 13 years. The church grew under his leadership, and he performed many weddings and funerals for members of the Roseman community. His son Phil Vaughn, who's our cousin, was the youth pastor during that same time, and this is a picture of Bill and Nettie Vaughn in their younger years. They're both still living
in Fallon, Nevada.
And they're 88 years old.
88, yes.
Still very active.
And we still speak to them at least twice a week. So,
yeah. It's pretty nice.
You can move, but you can't get away.
Okay, now on to us Loomis kids. This is a picture of my brother and us 3 girls. So that's Tommy on the right. I'm next to him, my sister Char and Mel, and that's in birth order. We're all just about a year apart. So we're close in age. Our brother was married and had 3 children. He worked at R&J Auto since he was 14 years old, eventually taking over the business when our dad and mom retired. This picture, I think, is my dad teaching Tommy to answer phones at R&J, but my brother's only like a year and a half in this photo, so it's just a cute photo. Had to show it. R&J was also known around the valley for having a good stock of parts for older model cars. My brother Tommy was also very active on the Roseman Community Service District Board of Directors for nearly 25 years, serving as the president for several of those years. In honor of my brother Tommy, the Community Service District dedicated a conservation garden in his name in 2006 for all the work that he contributed to the board. He was also involved in Boy Scouts as a young child, and this is a cute little photo of him saluting, standing in front of my dad's old truck, which says Roseman Auto Parts, which was another store that he had for a while. Okay, excuse me. I married Tom Kengott, who is also from Roseman, and we have 1 son and 2 daughters and 8 grandkids. My husband worked as a firefighter for Kern County Fire Department, even working in the Roseman station that my grandfather had such a passion to see become a reality for our town. I had the privilege of working as a secretary, the office manager, and assistant to the pastor at Wayside Chapel for 27 years. And I believe Wayside Chapel has played a role in many lives of the members of our town. After being retired for 11 years and after the passing of my husband 4 years ago, I'm now working as senior pastor's secretary at Grace Chapel in Lancaster. I think it's an interesting turn of events that my husband ends up working for Kern County Fire Department and I end up working for Wayside Chapel, knowing that our ancestors played such a key role in both of those becoming a reality in our town. My sister Char was Miss Roseman in 1977. Here's a picture of her and my dad. She was sponsored by R&J Auto Parts, of course. Yeah. They have 1 daughter and 2 grandkids, and they still live in Roseman as well. And actually, her husband and my husband were in the same high school class. Yeah. So we go to class reunions together.
My husband is Tom also, so we collect Toms.
Yeah, we have a lot of Toms. My brother.
Lots of Toms.
Yeah. Our sister Mel married Roger Hensley, also from Roseman, and they have a son and a daughter and 1 grandchild. And my sister moved up to Nevada, so she's not as close as she used to be to us in distance, but we talk all the time. Tom and Char and Roger and Mel purchased Foster Freeze in 1989. Here's a newsletter article when they took over ownership. Foster Freeze is an iconic fast food restaurant in California, and it had been in our community for years, and it had been a thriving business for most of those years. But when the Hensleys and Taylors purchased it, it had seen a few years of neglect. They jumped right in, making improvements to the building, hiring and training employees, and serving fresh food cooked to order. The business thrived under their leadership. They have taught many a teenager a strong work ethic over the nearly 33 years they owned and operated Foster Freeze. Didn't you have several couples that met and got married?
And we have 3, and 2 are still together. 1 is not together anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but many years, and I used to always wonder why God put me in that spot, and I said, well, I guess I'm just leading the kids.
Yeah.
I guess that's my duty.
They were known around the valley for their cruise nights. Here's an article as well about some of the cruise nights they had.
Which was really fun.
Yeah.
Roger would do the barbecuing of tri-tip barbecue, and Tom would do the parking, which was a big feat. and a few friends.
Yeah, they would do these in the summer where owners of vintage cars would come out and show off their cars. And like she said, they had a barbecued tri-tip meal, a 50-50 raffle, a hula hoop contest, a banana split eating contest, live music, live band.
Yeah.
And the
Got some
community
great bands.
just really came out for that, yeah. Foster Freeze was also generous to our clubs, schools, youth groups, and sports teams in Roseman. This is a picture of a coffee with a cop event.
Yeah, it was ice cream with a cup.
Ice cream with a cup.
Yeah. And we would do it right after school, and the parents would be so upset because they'd want them to go home, eat dinner first, do their homework, and I'm like, well, that's no fun. Let's have ice cream first and you go home. So it was fun.
They were known for donating gift certificates, drinks, ice, and hosting taco night fundraisers. The record for making and serving tacos was
950 by the football team in 2 hours and 40 minutes. And it was very serious. No talking, just make a taco. So it was fun.
They sold Foster Freeze and retired in 2022, and now they enjoy retired life and enjoy spending time with their grandkids. In 2007, the Hensleys and the Taylors built with their own hands Sister Coffee House right next to Foster Freeze. They serve gourmet coffee, and they offer a wide variety of coffees, blended drinks, and teas along with pastries. The 2 drive-through windows were ideal for a quick order, and they sold the business after several years, but the business still operates today. And this is a picture of when they opened Sister.
And that was all just a hoax because we hadn't made a coffee yet because we didn't have time. So we just put the aprons on and gave a good smile.
They were playing the part.
Playing the part.
We feel blessed to have been raised in the Loomis family with so much rich history in our little town. And this is just a cute picture of me and my 2 sisters in a truck that says R&J Auto. That truck used to be school bus yellow, and it had a bumper about the size of the car I drive now.
It did.
And we all learned to drive in it.
We had to drive it, at least
shift.
I had to for 6 months when we first got our license. So we would arrive at school in that truck. You can only fit one other person in there, and high speed is 40. So it was safe.
And Char's husband, Tom Taylor, restored it to this beautiful condition that it is today, and we still have it in our family. We hope that today that we have instilled the same sense of community in our family. This is a picture of my mom and dad, brothers and sisters, and their grandkids. And now we leave the legacy in the hands of our kids, grandkids, and cousins, trusting that they will love and care for Roseman in a similar manner. And as you can see, our family's grown, and it's even grown since then.
Grow, grow, grow. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming in. Isn't this amazing? And this family is such a foundation for the community of Roseman. I mean, they just have history that goes forever. And we appreciate you taking the time to put all this together, to struggle with getting the presentation. But it was wonderful, don't you think? So let's give it a